Hi, it's Milton Kane, the Christian Democratic Party candidate for the federal seat of Newcastle. Over the weekend there has been a conference dealing with various issues in relationship with mining, particularly coal seam gas, and also about the rights of landholders in reference to mining permits, exploration permits, mining leases, and so forth. It is important that I lay down the position of the Christian Democratic Party in regard to these matters. I want to first of all make it very clear. The Christian Democratic Party do support mining industry in this country. We believe it's a very important industry. We believe that we should be able to utilize the products found in this country. We come to the whole of our policy from the standpoint that we believe that God made the planet. He gave us the explicit instructions through Adam to look after the planet. Now, to look after the planet means that we must, when we use things, we must do them safely. What that actually means is we need to make sure that when we engage in a mining adventure, what we must do, we must make sure that the workers themselves are safe. We must make sure that the methods used do not damage the environment in an adverse way. We have to make sure, particularly in regard to some aspects of mining, that our water, underground water, the above ground water, is not being damaged in any way whatsoever. We recognise that the artesian basin, which is massive, can be very easily damaged by having the wrong chemicals within that water. And we believe that it is the onus of proof must be with the mining industry to establish that the process which they intend to use is safe, but it needs to be independently verified. We believe the best place to independently verify such things is within the bounds of the CSIRO. We believe it's their responsibility to so do. And so we will make sure that this organisation is well and truly funded so that it can do the research. But the research that they do in reference to mining will attract a bill to the mining companies to pay. It must be a user-pay system in regard to this matter. The second element in relationship with all of this comes to the very fact of access. You see, one of the problems that we do have is that it is possible for me to take out a prospecting license and go to some property which I don't own, walk onto that property and actually prospect for some product, find it, then put in a mining lease, and there is, to some extent, limited rights for the landholders. We do not believe this is appropriate. We believe that if somebody wishes to prospect on some land, that they need to seek the consent of the lawful landholder. The lawful landholder would then be able to, if he chose, to not grant consent. Or on the other hand, he may grant consent and he may wish to charge a reasonable access right to be able to do that. He may also wish to place a charge to make sure that when the prospecting, exploration for prospecting is concluded, that in fact the ground, the surface, whatever they've done with the ground and the surface of the land, that it actually be returned back to a useful state. In other words, it is rehabilitated environmentally. And that is appropriate for them to so do. If perchance this is going to go into a mining situation, then obviously a permanent arrangement of exactly what it's going to involve must be negotiated with the landholder. And there must be just terms coming to them. It may be from time to time that the federal government may deem that a particular resource in a particular location is of national interest, and therefore they may choose, if there is not agreement by the landholder, they may choose to go down the track of compulsory acquisition. We believe that should be and that ought to be possible. But the compensation dealing with the acquisition, whether they are just acquiring access rights or whether they are actually acquiring the property itself, must take into consideration beyond the value of the land, and those sorts of situations must take into consideration the life choice changes that will occur simply because of the fact of the need to relocate. You see, I believe that we need to treat our people with more dignity and respect. Once we sell the parcel of land to them, they ought to have some assurance that they will be protected by government and not just trampled over, either by government or multinationals. You may well say, but hang on a minute, if I want to dispute with the government the so-called just terms of compulsory acquisition, whether it be by access rights or by compulsory acquiring my land, that could send me broke. And you're absolutely right. And so we must also extend our policy to go one step further. And what we must do is make sure that there is funds available to assist a person in taking a case to prevent the government from compulsory acquisition. You see, we believe that a person ought to have the right to defend his property. But if perchance the person does have, because of various circumstances, or he carries debt, he may well not be able to extend his debt to actually retain his property. And that could be burdensome to his the viability of him retaining his property. And it would be wrong, it would be immoral of government to receive the land by default simply because the person cannot afford to run an appropriate defence of their right to retain the land. So we believe we have a balanced policy here, very simple. We wish the miners the right to mine. We want to grant them that right, but they must learn how to do it safely. And then if they want to get access to land which is already owned by freehold land, then they must get the right. They must negotiate the right of being able to utilise that land. But dealing with the land titles there, we also have one other problem, and that is the foreign ownership of land. There are many people who are seriously concerned about the foreign ownership of land, and so therefore we will be proposing that we will make it unlawful for any future purchasing of land to be done by people who are not Australian citizens, or businesses which are not wholly owned by Australian people. We believe that it is appropriate and wise for our land to be held in the hands of Australians. We do believe it compromises the national integrity of our country by having foreign governments or foreign businesses owning our land. There are many circumstances where perhaps circumstances may change and alter over time, and then a country which, for one reason or another, that may find itself in conflict with Australia, may well own valuable assets within this country and therefore compromise our right to defend, well and truly defend, the independence of our particular nation. So it's in the interest of that, we will make sure that we will do what we can to change the law so that the ownership of land, any future sales, will actually be only to people who own citizenship rights to this country. Thank you.